Sam here, and what a trade deadline it was in the NBA today. The Cleveland Cavaliers were busy, to say the least. They basically traded everybody. They traded everybody, and they basically redid their entire roster in an hour. And that is, but yet the Houston Rockets can't trade Ryan Anderson, can't get rid of a bad contract. But Cleveland essentially got younger, more athletic, and in the process, they gave Dwayne Wade back to the Heat after acquiring Jordan Clarkson and Rodney Hood, essentially diminishing Wade's playing time. So the Cavaliers, they made sure it was okay with LeBron, and so LeBron signed off on it. They gave Wade back to Miami, so Wade can get some playing time, and also get a swan song with the Miami Heat, who are pretty solid this season. But also, they got rid of a big problem child, and that's Isaiah Thomas. And yes, I'm going to call him a problem child because he stirred up a whole lot of crap in that locker room, talking way too much for a guy that had been there for a couple of months, coming off hip surgery. To me, he's really diminished his trade value and his free agency value, and somehow the Cleveland Cavaliers shipped him off. The Lakers are the biggest winners, though, because they have young talent. They still have Ingram and they still have Lonzo Ball. They have enough cap space to afford two max players, and their ideal destinations are LeBron James and Paul George, who's with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, George has made kind of clear that it's about winning a championship. I doubt he leaves Oklahoma City for the Los Angeles Lakers. He is from LA, like LeBron, who lives in LA. He's not from LA, but Paul George is from LA. There's talks about him going back home. I can't see him leaving Russell Westbrook unless something dramatic happens in the postseason. The biggest disappointment would probably definitely be the Houston Rockets. I thought the Rockets would at least acquire, and they're still in talks about acquiring Joe Johnson, who in that big massive overhaul by the Cavaliers was dealt in a 3-team trade. He went to Sacramento, but now he's looking like he's going to get a buyout. So the Rockets are interested in Joe Johnson. The Utah Jazz, the Jazz now have the Nets' first round pick. Right. It's so much wheeling and dealing that happened today with the Cavaliers. It's kind of hard to figure out who went where. Although Wade went to the Heat, and that was great. It went back to Wade County, where he belongs. I thought he got a rotten end in Miami. That was going to get a second chance after kind of failing in Chicago and kind of not I wouldn't say failing in Cleveland, but he's not the player he once was. And it's a slower pace than what Cleveland was trying to run. And so it fits him best. Obviously Detroit got Blake Griffin. That was way before the deadline. There's another big deal that didn't happen that I thought would happen was DeAndre Jordan. I thought with the Clippers fire sale going on that Jordan was going to be a part of it. There was talks that the Clippers were going to try to trade Jordan to the Cavaliers. I just think, again, I just don't think the Cavaliers had enough tradable pieces. Like, I just didn't think they had enough pieces, and going back to the Lakers for a second, the Lakers have 2 first-round picks. So they have 2 first-round picks. They have Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, very talented, high-upside players, and they have cap space enough to sign 2 max players. Things are looking up for the Lakers, and I think the Los Angeles Lakers are eyeballing to go big in the offseason, and they're not thinking about this season. And they're not a very good team right now, but I think they're projected to be one in the next couple of years. Depending on what they do in the offseason, Magic Johnson has been very aggressive. He's kind of been in the NBA news about tampering. But I do think at the end of the day, he's trying to go big. And I think this deal helps the Cavaliers. The Cavaliers are getting younger. They have a solid roster, so they won't be terrible when LeBron leaves, because let's be real, he's leaving. Okay? But also, it's gutting the drama out of that locker room, and it's essentially giving that team a fair start. It's essentially a new set of players for 2.5 months before the playoffs arrive. So it's a totally different squad. Kyle Korver is still there. So they've still got 3-point shooting. They're a little bit younger. They're a bit more athletic. They don't really have another big star on that team. It's just LeBron leading the charge, and it's solid role players. But the Cavaliers got younger. They got rid of the problem child, Isaiah Thomas. I really don't think Isaiah is going to get much in free agency after what's gone on in Cleveland and after The Messi starting already with the Lakers, and he's wanting to not come off the bench. Well, too bad. He's a defensive liability. Too bad for Isaiah because again, your starting point guard is the franchise player, and that's Lonzo Ball. He was the lottery pick. He's the top pick of the draft. He's going to be the starter. And there's no way you're putting Isaiah Thomas at the two guard position in the Western Conference. It just doesn't work. I do think that I think Luke Walton will shuffle Ball and Thomas around to where they're on the court at the same time, and they utilize each other's skills. But at the end of the day, there's no way he's starting over Lonzo Ball. And like I said, I think for the Lakers, this is about next season. This is about the offseason being an attractive free agent destination, and it's the Los Angeles Lakers. At some point, they've got to turn it around, right? I mean, they're one of the most historic franchises in the NBA. The Jazz, I think the Jazz have some good young pieces. They've Gobert down underneath in the low block, but the problem with Gobert is too injury prone, in my opinion. But they got the net first round pick. They did let go of Joe Johnson, who I thought was solid for them in the playoffs last year. A big reason why they got beyond the first round and why they made some effort against the Golden State Warriors. Made some sort of a fight against the Warriors. So I do think Joe Johnson may end up in Houston. There have been talks about Houston being involved in if he gets bought out by the Kings, which is very likely to happen. Derrick Rose is likely to be bought out by the Utah Jazz. So again, the buyout season is about to happen. So a lot of the deals that didn't happen could still happen. I just thought DeAndre Jordan was definitely going to be traded today. That was my biggest. That I thought was a sure thing, and it was such a disappointment because I think the Clippers are not. They're not building around him. He's not the franchise player. They're trying to get enough players, enough picks to rebuild their franchise, and maybe I don't know what their thinking is. Maybe they think that they can land a max player and surround DeAndre Jordan and some shooters and get another superstar and maybe make another run at a championship in the Western Conference. But as it stands, I thought the Rockets and I thought the Cavaliers would make some moves. I thought the Cavaliers did make moves. They gutted their entire roster. But the Houston Rockets, I'm watching Cleveland gut their entire roster in like 1 hour, and I'm thinking, how is it that Houston can't get rid of Ryan Anderson's contract? But yet the Cleveland Cavaliers were able to get rid of Isaiah Thomas, who was an absolute problem for them. And not just a problem in the locker room, but he wasn't a great fit. Okay, then they got rid of Channing Frye. They got rid of Derrick Rose. They got rid of Dwayne Wade. They got rid of some aging players who are just not that good anymore. But Houston can't get rid of him. Ryan Anderson is still pretty solid. He's not a consistent defender. He doesn't rebound very well. But he does shoot the three ball very well. He's obviously struggled this season in Houston in the Toyota Center, but for the most part, he's still been a very good three-point shooter. So I was kind of like, well, why is he still in? Well, how is it that Houston can't get rid of that contract? Houston's really not in good enough financial shape to make a run at a superstar or two in the offseason. Really, it's the Lakers. And quite frankly, it's the two LA teams. It's the Clippers and the Lakers. They're trying to set themselves up. That's gonna be fun to watch. Clippers and Lakers trying to get the big superstars to see who gets them. But Cleveland made the biggest moves of the day. They changed their entire roster in 1 hour, and I'm impressed. That was impressive, and they got younger. They got decent. I think letting go of that Nets pick it's probably gonna come back to haunt them because I think it's gonna be a good pick. It might be the pick that could get them that could have got Trae Young, and I think now that's probably going to go to the Utah. That's going to the Utah Jazz. If the Nets are bad enough and the ping pong balls go that way and they get the top pick, Trae Young could be going to Utah instead of Cleveland. So that's really the piece that hurts the most. If I had to pinpoint a part of the trade deadline that hurt the Cavaliers, is getting rid of that first round pick. But they did get a protected second round pick for Dwayne Wade, which is pretty solid for a guy that's done. I mean, no disrespect to Dwayne Wade. He's just not the player he once was. He's been solid the last couple of years, but protected second round pick. Miami again is pretty good this year, so it's not exactly a lock that you're going to get a top second round pick either if you're Cleveland. But hey, you got a second round pick for the win away. So kudos to you, especially at this point in his career. That's a huge kudos. But again, the biggest disappointment, Houston, and the fact that DeAndre Jordan wasn't traded. But moving on to the NBA trade deadline wasn't the only big thing that happened today. In the NFL, you saw Jimmy Garoppolo getting paid. Listen, I know teams are desperate for quarterbacks. This has Brock Osweiler tattooed all over it. Remember, the Houston Texans gave Brock Osweiler $72 million, 50 of it guaranteed. Today, Jimmy Garoppolo signed a $137 million contract, $73 million guaranteed. This is a huge gamble. I mean, I know he had 5 great starts, but again, once teams get film on you, it's a different ballgame. And I like Jimmy's talent, but unless you draft that quarterback, it's a gamble. It really is. I mean, Luck, Derek Carr, Deshaun Watson. Well, no, Deshaun Watson isn't getting paid yet. Well, he will get paid. Derek Carr, Matthew Stafford. Those guys were all drafted by their teams. Andrew Luck, Matthew Stafford, Russell Wilson, Derek Carr. Russell Wilson hasn't gotten a big, massive paycheck yet. Matt Ryan, Drew Brees. Well, Drew Brees was traded from the Chargers to the Saints. Sorry, that go by the Chargers and signed by the Saints. But my point is, for the quarterbacks that get paid the most are by the teams that drafted them. So the teams that are usually signing quarterbacks to massive deals, they're the ones drafting those quarterbacks. So they know it's a franchise quarterback. This is a gamble. This is basically saying, don't leave with Jimmy. We need you. And I know the Niners need a quarterback, but it's a huge gamble, and it could be Brock Osweiler 2.0. You get the big contract, and then all of a sudden, teams get film on him, and then all of a sudden the Niners are just, it's an iffy situation. I did like Garoppolo coming out of college. I liked him as one of the top quarterbacks in the 2014 draft. I thought the Texans made a huge mistake not picking him with the 33 overall pick in that draft. So, to me, I'm a loss for words honestly, because now it's going to set the table for future quarterbacks like Breeze, he's a free agent. Bridgewater, free agent. Keenum, he's a free agent. Nick Foles is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. He's under contract, but again, when his contract runs out, he's going to want a huge payday. And then you've got who's the other guy? Kirk Cousins. Well, Kirk Cousins could be franchise tagged by the Redskins. That's it. That's going to be a funny situation. Alex Smith and Kirk Cousins potentially on the same team. Kirk Cousins a free agent quarterback. This deal does set I think according to Adam Schefter, and I agree with Schefter, it's going to set the precedent on how much quarterbacks vote for. And it is. It's a quarterback-driven league. The Niners need a quarterback. And they obviously feel like Jimmy's their guy. And they better be right, because they've just shelled out a lot of cash. It didn't kill their salary cap situation, though. They still have about $90 million in salary cap space, so they could still sign players, go out there and really rebuild that team. But it's just like, for a guy who had 5 starts, it's very iffy. And it's a huge gamble, and again, I would love to see it pay off. I thought he was a heck of a quarterback coming out of Eastern Illinois, a sleeper pick in my opinion. Should have been taken in the late first round, definitely by the Texans with the 33rd overall pick. But hey, he's in San Francisco and he's got a massive payday. Kudos to him. Hopefully he does well. But it is a gamble. Cleveland got their entire roster. DeAndre Jordan didn't get traded, and the Houston Rockets are going to be hitting the waiver wire. Those are the biggest disappointments of the trade deadline. DeAndre Jordan and the Houston Rockets not getting that big man and not getting that playmaker. Jimmy Garoppolo gets paid. Baseball season's about to start soon. I'm looking forward to the Winter Olympics start tonight. So we'll see what happens. The NBA season is drawn to hasn't even got to the All-Star break yet, but we're almost at the stretch run and heading towards the playoffs. This has been Sam Darley. Thank you for watching.